Hello and welcome everyone to our newest channel, Eldritch Mythos. If you're wondering as to what our channel consists of, it consists of that of the mysterious, the unknown, myths and legends, stories of old, stories are of present time. And we tend to gravitate towards that a lot since childhood. We each have our own stories based on different topics of the event. In this week and next will be that of the cryptids, creatures of the past, creatures of the present that are out there today and presumably still to be unknown whereabouts. In this week, it will be that of the Mothman. Now, the Mothman is that of a creature that is a hybrid, correct?
It's supposed to be a 6 foot approximate size, basically man's half moth thing. The descriptions go from anywhere from it looking more like a kind of owlish or baddish thing to a more like weird kind of man looking with moth kind of wings. It depends on what it is, along with possibly giant red eyes, although in some account cases that's just due to the light reflecting off of its large eyes. Well, another where it's also said that it could potentially have different color eyes depending on what the case is or whatever it is. But yeah, so it's a humanoid thing. Okay. As far as regular stand-up structure. It's somewhat humanoid, but make no mistake, it's definitely not a human.
Right.
In really any sense of the word, other than the fact that most accounts say it's about the size of a human, and some accounts have it with like 2 legs and a head and like human structure.
Okay.
With the exception of its wings, of course. Because
how big a wingspan does it have? Are they all different or about the same size?
I think some say estimate of like 10 feet wingspan. That's on like a 6 foot tall one per se.
Now is that like a 10-foot combined or individual?
No, it would be 10 feet across. Wow. So from one wing to the other.
Okay.
But it also varies. I mean, if you're gonna have if it's theoretically, a juvenile or whatever,
right?
Then it would potentially be smaller, and I can only assume that if they found a larger one, it would vary in size. It would probably get larger.
Mm-hmm.
But judging by the the current outlook of 6 feet tall would be between 10 to 12 feet as far as length goes. And again, it's all estimate. They've only with the sightings of it, they've only seen it so many times. So it's a measurement of what would you call it, proportion size to it, and what it looked like when it happened. So we're basically looking at a really large, not really bird, not really human thing, but something really crazy that has a large wingspan that if you were in dinosaur times you would say it would be like a pterodactyl wingspan.
Wow. I'm gonna take it over to you this time.
Yes.
Why did we come to the consensus of showing up with the Mothman as the first week?
Because it seemed to be like one of the more popular options.
Popular amongst
just like cryptid fans in general.
Okay.
It's also it has like shit.
Okay, go ahead, keep going. It's fine.
It's so popular enough that it made into video games. So it has a pretty big fan base, you could say.
Okay, that's outside
of
what we know of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not only that, but like we just passed literally like maybe a week or two ago, depending on when this video comes out. But the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, the real one.
Yeah.
So this is a popular and very well known cryptid or legend or whatever you want to call it. It's also a personal favorite of mine.
And the festival is actually a very it's garnered so much attention that it brings in like international crowds too.
Okay.
So it's pretty out there. It's next to like Nessie and Bigfoot. It's not one that you would hear a lot, but it's like
in that tier where it's known, not well known like the other counterparts, of course. Okay. Now, when did this Mothman come about? Do we remember asking you to? Because the only knowledge I have of the Mothman is that of just Fallout 76, and that was about it. I don't have any knowledge besides that.
The first sighting was in 1960 something. 1960s.
Okay.
I think it was 66.
And where?
In West Virginia, north of Point Pleasant, over by what is now referred to as the TNT domes.
Okay.
But it's the West Virginia Ordnance Works, and this is the first major sighting. Technically, there was a sighting before that they attribute to the Mothman, where they got 5 guys digging a grave, and they see this giant thing, but there wasn't a whole lot of confirmation on what that was. But people put it together with the other one. But the real, like, major sighting that we had people get a supposed really good look at it was the TNT domes.
Okay.
And you have these 2 married couples, young couples, basically near the TNT domes, see this thing out in the woods, and it's a very large, again, like humanoid thing. At first, they're obviously scared of it. It looked one of the wives see the big giant red eyes because the car that they're in, reflects off the eyes of it, and it freaks them out. And they drive away as this thing kind of pursues them for a bit. Once they get away from it, they kind of talk amongst each other, and they think it's just this giant bird thing. So they decide to go back to basically confirm this. But when they go back, they realize this is not. They look at it again, and they realize it stands there. It's not some giant bird thing. It is something they've never seen before, and before they can get any real major other extra look at it, it shoots off into the air, going, who knows exactly how fast, but fast enough that it looks like it basically just hyper jumps out of existence vertically into the air, and it freaks a lot of people out because they bring that story back to
local authorities, I'm assuming.
To the police. Police go looking for it, but they don't find anything. But by the next morning, it's on the newspaper. They don't even have a name for it at that point. And it basically says couples find creature, animal, something, and people start going crazy looking for this thing. And it's weird because it kind of just shows up out of nowhere. Very odd, but it gains such traction so quickly because of other incidents in the area, including one that's basically about a year later, right around the same time, of the Silver Bridge, I think
so.
The Silver Bridge, that connects Point Pleasant over the Ohio River to Ohio on the other side, collapsing. And killing the majority of people in the cars on the bridge, with only leaving about 9 people alive after that. And people saying that they saw something roughly fitting the description before the incident, just a few days beforehand. And it's weird. It gets this kind of, thing of did it do it, or was it trying to warn us that this was going to happen?
So people are believing that it's, well, from what I hear, you're saying that people are believing that be that of something that's giving an omen to something terrible that might happen in the area, or in general.
Right.
The 2 main theories standing behind it is, yes, it is an omen, and that's one of the arguments. The other one is that it might actually cause the omen. It might cause the bad situations to happen.
Okay.
So, mostly because it seemed like 2 or 3 days before the actual disaster happens. So it was spotted at the Silver Bridge. It was recently there has been like weird reports that it was also spotted in like Chernobyl, like 3 days before the meltdown, stuff like that. But it's I don't know. It's mostly unconfirmed.
It's unconfirmed, but that's what's in the air. That's
Yeah.
what's going around.
Yeah, it's unconfirmed that that's what it is that they see beforehand, but they're reporting that again this same kind of humanoid type large thing with large wingspan shows up before major incidents like that one. There was another bridge collapse in Minneapolis in the early 2000s, I think it was, that they said they also saw. They even said in a portion of Chihuahua, Mexico, that it showed up in the area before a swine flu outbreak, which again, there's only so much you can go on by what they say of this thing, and it's weird to me that before that, most of the incidents are all mostly structural or some sort of weird failure upon human kind, and then it would show up for a swine flu outbreak, which actually puts a different kind of thing on it if you really want to be really looking into it, because you say the Mothman is an omen for like humans messing up. Why would it show up for a swine flu outbreak? Does that mean that we as humans accidentally did something to make swine flu, or is it just deciding to pick it, or was it something else in Mexico that has things sort of like the Mothman that they've kind of associated with? Because the Mothman has more than one you could say cousin, like the Owlman in England, or
Yes. So there's those different sightings, but similarities are amongst them.
There's the two main points are there's one in England called the Owlman, and then there's one in Canada that I don't remember at the moment. I'm not sure if you remember what the name of it was.
The Thunderbirds?
Yeah, the Thunderbirds in Canada. And they're not described the same way. They have slightly different changes of what they look like as far as their descriptions, but again, they're about 6 feet with a wingspan of about 10 feet, so you get a lot of similarities.
Right.
And a lot of different things, which could say that if, say, the Mothman could be potentially related to them by species, by what. Mm-hmm. But the Owlman definitely looks, as far as description goes, more like an owl, and Thunderbirds, you have descriptions of anywhere from looking like a pterodactyl to looking like a big giant bird. It's really weird as far as Thunderbirds go, but the Mothman has always kind of stayed in this range of what that is. And yeah, I wouldn't know if obviously whether or not it'd be the omen or the causation of these things. I'd like to think it would be the omen of it, because
nobody knows for sure, but there definitely is a correlation between the both. Mm-hmm. But we don't know what it is. So.
Mm-hmm. But what would you think? Because he believes that it would be that of an omen than that of the cause. Would you believe it to be the omen or the cause? Based on your research.
I would also lean towards being an omen.
An omen?
Yeah. Mostly because there hasn't been like any proof of like tampering or anything that the Mothman does. He's just been sighted. So
he just watches.
Yeah, so if there isn't like any like evidence of, either claw marks on the bridge or like Mothman spreading some sort of disease or something somehow, then I'm just gonna say it's an omen at this point. Mm-hmm. That I don't know what the official reports say on the Silver Bridge or anything. I haven't really looked into it. They just reported it as an accident. So it's I think it's an omen.
Okay. All right.
I've actually looked into the Silver Bridge incident. The bridge was built way before what was modern automobiles at the time. From what it says, the bridge could not hold the weight of how many cars were taking that per day. And I kind of factor this also into the Mothman, if it is what it is, being more of an omen, knowing when things are going to happen, because the bridge was already unstructurally sound. It could not hold the weight, and it was just a ticking time bomb, whether or not it happened that day or another day, whatever the case is. But yet the Mothman shows up a couple days before that, and I kind of put in the same vicinity of if it did show up at Chernobyl. I mean, you think about it like with us, you're not going to know going into some place like that how the damn thing works. Now, we're talking about the Mothman. Whether or not he's mystical or not, chances are he's not necessarily like hyper intelligent. He's probably just isn't. If he is in the same kind of realm, the most he could probably be is maybe slightly more intelligent than us. But he doesn't necessarily know everything about everything. Chances are he'd get some sort of sense, and he would know something bad was going to happen. It's not like he's going to know how to make swine flu.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he may know that there's something coming. So that's why I think he'd be more in the omen category than him actually doing anything. As far as malevolent and causing it and doing something like that. What actually bothers me more about the Mothman.
Now, when you say bother, as in like it bothers you about a fact about it, or bothers you like it makes you uncomfortable?
It makes me uncomfortable.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the Mothman. It's the rumored supposed Men in Black that show up afterwards. And I say Men in Black because that's the term. I'm not talking about Will Smith, and Will Smith, and Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones showing up to talk to you. No, or Chris Helmsworth or Valkyrie showing up to talk to you. No,
Tessa Thompson.
Yes, I always forget her name, but the supposedly after the bridge collapse, after the sighting of the TNT domes and everything, certain people have been visited by these governmental guys in all black saying that they should not talk about the Mothman. And
they can be considered a cryptid all to their own too.
That is true.
They have an extensive history with the U.S. government as far as like people talking about it. But yeah,
and losing knowledge of it. Of
yeah,
course.
right.
Yeah.
And
but that'll be for a later topic.
That's literally what they basically turned into a movie, except they made the movie comical.
Yeah.
But like you said, this is not time for talk about that. But that is disturbing. The fact that these guys show up after something that people could just write off as paranoia,
mm-hmm.
or saying something completely different and making up whatever. But yet these guys show up interested, very interested, obviously, in telling you basically not to spread that. And then there's also the health effects that apparently people go through when they actually see this thing. Like the wife who experienced a massive panic attack, an anxiety attack, literally like a day later. Said they were that it may, when you look at it, makes you feel full of dread and fear and could make you sick to your stomach and have major headaches and whatnot. And if it has that type of power, what else could it do? Potentially,
Yeah. I want to touch up on the Men in Black, because I know that's going to be a topic of its own, but since you were saying about it in regards to them showing up when the Mothman is present or you have an encounter, I wanted to touch up on, is it man-made, or is it that what it was, or is, still a cryptid? It came in as it is. Because, like, Men in Black, they are what they are. They come in when something's of interest, and usually it's aggressively. So because of that, why are they so interested? It's going to be one of those two topics, in my theory. So I want to start off with you. Why do you think the Men in Black are so interested?
Okay, what I do know of the Men in Black is that when they're interested, it's it's a couple of things. One, it's usually related to the government, and two, like in the movies, it is either an extraterrestrial sort of affair. So if these like men in black that could be considered their own kind of like cryptid and stuff are interested in something like the Mothman, then I'm guessing the Mothman is either man-made, but I don't really fully go with that idea because I don't think like humans would have that technology to create such a powerful creature if it was a creature.
During that time.
Yeah, during like the 60s and stuff when it first sighted.
Okay.
I would have to say the Mothman is either extraterrestrial sort of creature, or maybe even like an extra dimensional creature. But I don't know about the Mothman being an ET, mostly because they're everywhere, or at least there's like similar looking creatures around the world, like the Thunderbirds in Canada or the OMEN in London. So if it was an ET, it would have to be sort of more like an isolated incident.
Okay.
And I think it would rather have to be like some sort of extra dimensional creature, like what we would consider like an angel or a demon, or things like entities like how Stephen King wrote like Pennywise in his book It, or the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess it would the Mothman would be more of an extra dimensional creature, and the Men in Black are interested because of either what it can sense or what it can do to humans, as far as like the health, like the mental and health effects that would have on people when they look at it, or look directly into its eyes and stuff. So yeah, I would have to go with either or, but I'm leaning more towards the extra dimensional creature.
Okay.
So
What about you? What do you think?
I like to. I like a lot of what he says as far as the Men in Black in general. Like again, they don't go after anything that's normal. They the specific to either extraterrestrial or extra special beings of some sort, and them being probably a secret branch of the government, to be fairly honest, or at least contracted by them enough, because they are connected to the government one way or another. They want to know, they want to be able to control it, they want to be able to use it or find it or identify it. So I don't think it's man-made, because even like he said, even if we had the technology today to hybrid something like that in the 60s, no way. They didn't even nearly have any bit of DNA type of work or anything like that, as far as we know, of course. But even then, it would probably be very primitive by then, and you wouldn't be able to probably make something like that, at least not efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a failed experiment that couldn't fly right, or couldn't, but it's probably something either kind of like in the sense of, like he was saying, kind of like with like an entity that crosses over from its realm, and it's kind of stuck here for some reason. It shows up here every once in a while. It could be extraterrestrial, although that'd be really, it's another kind of leap of how to get here, why is it still here, and where is it from? Or another opinion it could be is that it could really be another, like, possibly like, Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot, something left behind that, used to be more common that we just haven't found a lot of, because obviously, you know, the world is the way it is, and there's always dense jungles, and not everything turns into a fossil, so it really just depends. They could have been very small because of their stature. Could have been really hard to hunt, so there could only have been a couple as generations go on, and we've only ever seen a few of them because they like to stick and hide, and maybe they're very good at that. So either an extra special being, either from a realm or from another planet, or B, something that is just extremely rare that has been able to hide very well from us, and is obviously very, very weird looking that it would be compared to such a thing. That would have these type of things, because obviously, I mean, if you look at regular animals like dogs and cats, they have an extrasensory thing that they can sense sometimes when earthquakes or things are about to happen before humans can. What says that this thing can't? Maybe to a much higher degree. You know, maybe it's that same type of sense, just, you know, because they're larger or more intelligent, they can just sense it even further, or sense it just more accurately, or, you know, whatever the case is.
Okay, I like that. It gives me, and hopefully everyone that's watching, more knowledge in regards to that of the Mothman. If they don't already have that knowledge already, if you do have more knowledge of the Mothman, any sightings or stories, or even encounters of your own, if you have any, be sure to let us know. Go ahead and comment down below what you may think, if you either agree or disagree of what we discussed about that of the Mothman, or if you want to just add more into it, you're more than welcome to. Please add any comments down below in regards to that. That is today's video in regards to the Mothman. Later this week, we'll go ahead and actually add another video of that of the Mothman to a full consensus, a full story from all the research that these two have gathered, and we will tell it to you with imagery that are based upon the stories and facts that have happened in regards to the Mothman and the events that have transpired. Be sure to wait for that later this week. And if you like this video, hit like button, hit the bell icon, subscribe so you can be notified of future videos to more cryptids, ghost stories, myths, legends, or any other encounters you may have happened within your life as well as our own. So please, we'll be seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.